game day or a huge party, you need to make this pulled pork. It's super simple and we're making it in the slow cooker. Let's get started. Hey everybody, I'm Kelly with the Suburban Soapbox, and today we are making one of my favorite recipes, pulled pork. It is so simple, that's why I love it so much, and it will feed a crowd. Sometimes we just like to make this and then freeze half of it for a busy weeknight. This is so melt in your mouth tender, you're not gonna believe how simple it is to make. So you're going to need like a big pork shoulder roast, and this one is a bone-in. You can use a boneless. You will have to cut the cooking time a little bit if you're going to go boneless. I urge you to get one bone-in. It just adds to the flavor and makes it much more tender because it is resistant to drying out with that bone. You're going to need some beef stock, brown sugar, apple cider vinegar, onion powder, honey, tomato paste, garlic powder, cumin, ground cayenne, chili powder, salt, pepper, smoked paprika, and my favorite ingredient, the secret weapon, is liquid smoke. Everyone thinks that I've smoked this on the grill or a smoker, but really it's just this flavor powerhouse in a little bottle. So to make the pulled pork, we're going to start with making like a little flavor-packed barbecue sauce. So we're just going to add everything to a bowl, and then we're just gonna whisk it together, and we'll pour this over top of the pork once we put it into the slow cooker. And if you want to add much more flavor, we sometimes will brown this on the stovetop, like in a griddle or in a big cast iron skillet, and it gives it some nice depth of flavor, like a little bit more richness, because you have that browning on the outside. So if you're going to brown your pork, just liberally season it with salt and pepper, put a little olive oil in a pan, and then just brown it on every side. It only takes about 10 minutes, but for today, we're just gonna throw it in the slow cooker and show you that you don't really need to go through all of the hassle of browning to get a really flavorful pulled pork. And then the cumin, some chili powder, the smoked paprika is one of my favorite ingredients. This tomato paste, pepper, and salt. And then we're just gonna add a little bit of this liquid smoke. I like to add like a tablespoon or two. You can just eyeball it. We're gonna whisk it all together, and then we'll put the pork into the slow cooker and pour this over top. And now we're just gonna add this to the slow cooker, and you're going to put it in with the fat side up so that that fat, when it renders down and melts down, it's actually going into the meat and around the sides, and it's not just being like rendered into the bottom of your slow cooker. And then we're gonna pour our sauce right over top, and that's it. And then you're gonna put the lid on it, and you can cook it on high for 4 hours and then low for 4 hours, or you can cook it on high for a total of 6 hours, and then we'll go from there. So our pulled pork is now done, and we're going to just transfer to this platter and then shred it up. So if you have a lot of fat on top, some cuts of the pork may actually render a lot more fat. You can skim that off, but you're going to want to put all of your shredded pork back into the slow cooker, because if you feel like there's a lot of fat, it's going to suck up into your meat and then it'll hence taste a lot more fatty. So if you are like not pro decadence, then you definitely want to skim some of that fat off. So I'm just going to carefully transfer this to a platter, and it's going to break up on you a little bit. And we'll pull that out. And there's still the fat on top, so you're going to want to pull that off. You don't want to shred that up in there. And so I really should be putting this in a separate bowl. We'll just pull that to the side for now. Here you have this melt in your mouth, tender. You can see it's just falling apart as I pull it out. And it's just gonna fall off the bone once we get to the bone. It's a little messy, but it's always worth it. There we go. You can see the bone is just like, we can pull it out. See how tender that is? Making a huge mess. And then once you have everything out of your slow cooker, You're just gonna shred it up, and you can use 2 forks or you can use your tongs, but we're just gonna shred it all into pieces and then put it back into the slow cooker. And that's how we're gonna separate out that fat layer from the rest of your pulled pork. So we're gonna take some of that that's already shredded and put it back into our slow cooker. And then you can actually serve it right out of your slow cooker if you're having a party, and it keeps everything warm. And then you get all that flavor from that sauce that we made in the beginning of the video. And this is a really good point to check your seasonings. So if you feel like it needs more salt or a little more cayenne or some more liquid smoke, you can definitely add it in at this point. Take these little pieces here, and then that's it. And then you can, at this point, to add more flavor, you can put the lid on and cook it for another hour on low, or you can just serve it as it is and then add some barbecue sauce. We're gonna make some sandwiches. So now that our pork has been sitting for an hour, it soaked up some of that flavor from our little marinade, we're going to make a sandwich. And I just like to use like a Kaiser roll or a hamburger roll and pile it high with some of this pulled pork. And then I like to top it with some coleslaw. You get that nice cool crunch from the coleslaw and a little bit of tanginess from that dressing. Now I'm gonna take a bite. It's so juicy and melt in your mouth tender. This is so good and so easy. If you like this recipe, please be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. For more easy recipes, visit thesuburbansoapbox.com. Thanks again.